Paramount has signed a deal to broadcast UFC games. It's actually kind of a big deal. Paramount, the parent company of the CBS, has going to pay $7.7 billion to stream UFC fights and show select fights on CBS. Now, side note here, I'm not a big UFC fan. We actually had it on at my house last night for the guys on the front porch, and I tend to not make eye contact with it. And listen, this is my own personal view of it, but much like St. Augustine was very adamant that the Christians should not be going to the gladiatorial games, I feel like these are the modern gladiatorial games, and I, as a person of faith, should not be paid money betting on, watching, or taking pleasure in watching people beat the hell out of each other. That's my personal opinion. It is not me telling you should do that. It's just I don't enjoy it because I just don't think people created in the image of God should take pleasure in watching people beat the hell out of each other physically. But most of my friends disagree. I am an outlier in the position, and last night I knew they would want to watch it. There was nothing else on in sports, and so I thought I'll turn it on. I don't have to really make eye contact with it, and they can enjoy it. And I would say as well that one of the things the UFC should do if they're smart is there's that period of time in American life where there is literally no good sporting event on television at all. And I'm just flummoxed that the UFC has not figured out that if it moves its fights from Saturday night to Sunday night during that time of the year, it could even it could do even better. Instead of having a football game to watch, you got a UFC match or something. I don't know why they don't. But here's the larger issue. It's not really about the UFC. I don't blame the UFC. They're going to make a lot of money out of this deal. I think it's very funny that Bud Light is now the sponsor of UFC because Bud Light decided it needed to get back in the graces of Middle America. Middle America likes the UFC, so Bud Light hired Shane Gillis and paid to be the sponsor for UFC as a way to get back in the good graces of people who didn't want to drink it after the Dylan Mulvaney thing. And I don't know that it actually helps. Like, I have never watched a sporting event of any kind in my life and thought, I think I should go use that company because they sponsored this match. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm an anomaly in this as well. Maybe you guys do. But like, I viscerally would not use Truist Bank because one, I think it's a stupid name. But also, I call the Braves Stadium the teepee. Truist Park is the teepee. It is the teepee. You had the opportunity to name it after Hank Aaron when Ted Turner owned it, but they named it Turner Field because, of course, he was the owner. And then you could name it Hank Aaron Field, but no, the bank decided to do it, and so the bank is calling it Truist Park, and I just find it to be a stupid name, and so I call it the teepee, and I'm like less likely to bank with that bank because of it. Not because of the Braves' performance, although it's not good this year. The whole thing annoys me. It's like the bowl games. I like Chick-fil-A presents the Peach Bowl, the Viagra Bowl or what have you, the Taco Bell Run for the Border or the Bathroom Bowl, and so I just the commercialization of this stuff it aggravates me. It does. Call me old-fashioned, but I wanted the Sugar Bowl to be the Sugar Bowl and the Rose Bowl to be the Rose Bowl. Not the insert name brand sponsor, old name bowl. It aggravates me. All of this is to get me to the point of which you're wondering, Erickson, you're tired of talking about politics. What are you doing here? I think we as a society have screwed ourselves when it comes to capitalism. There's a story in the Wall Street Journal today about how what the United States is beginning to do under Donald Trump is essentially state-controlled capitalism. And Greg Ip, who writes the column, really isn't wrong, and it's getting a level of traction. And it's not good for our society to have the government so involved in the business of business in the United States. It genuinely isn't a good thing that this is happening. And it's not a good thing, but it's coming about for a reason that you got to understand. The reason the president is able to, for example, get a golden share for the U.S. Steel deal with Nippon Steel, and the U.S. can get kickbacks from NVIDIA selling AI chips to China, is because our capitalist robber barons abused capitalism, and a lot of it has to do with private equity. Let me give you my fundamental philosophical proposition here. I think that in a free market system, money is the byproduct. Money's not the product in a free market system. In a free market system, a good or service is the product. So you provide a useful good or a useful service. I, in turn, pay you money for it to take advantage of it. And you sell enough, you make a profit. And the profit, the money, is the byproduct of the good or the service. But with the advent of private equity in this country, by and large, money itself is the product. They leverage assets, they buy businesses, they break them apart, all have a financial component, and they're looking at the financial component. They're not actually looking at the product or service. Look at Ninja that made the Instant Pot and whatnot. It fell on hard times because it got bought by private equity that then leveraged out the parts of the company, and a company that sells tremendous products is now making inferior products. And one of the rumors, one of the allegations from a lot of these companies is that they start making products that don't last as long. In some cases, that's true. In some cases, it's just conspiracy. But look at beds, for example. Look at beds. You used to be able to buy a mattress in this country that you could flip over and rotate. So you didn't just rotate your mattress every few weeks. Every month or so, you flipped it over. Nowadays, they don't make mattresses that you can use both sides, and they claim it's about the quality of the product. But what it really is that if you flip over your mattress, in addition to rotating your mattress, it lasts a lot longer. And the mattress companies figured out if they got rid of the ability to flip the mattress over and use the other side, that you would have to buy a mattress within 8 years instead of within 15 years. And why did that happen? Because private equity companies bought the mattress companies and decided they needed to find a way to get you coming back for more. In some cases, like your washer and your dryer that don't last as long, it's government efficiency standards that required a lot of metal being replaced with a lot of plastic. But the capitalists themselves, when they decided it was all about the money and not the product, broke capitalism. You know who's raising prices right now? It's not just the tariffs that are impacting people. It's the steel and aluminum makers domestically in the United States. They're raising prices now. There's a big Goldman Sachs report out, and there's a story in the New York Times over the weekend about Arizona iced tea running into problems. It's had 99-cent iced tea since 1997, and now it's about to raise prices for the first time since 1997 because it's not just imported aluminum that's going up in price, it's domestic. Why? Because the domestic companies, instead of being about the good and the service, about the product, are about the money. And they realize because imported aluminum now is so much more expensive than it was, they can raise the price of domestic aluminum and still be cheaper than the imported aluminum. They can make more money. This, by the way, is a logical and predicted fallout of tariffs. It actually was predicted at the time. I talked about it at the time when the president was talking about tariffs, that the domestic manufacturers would raise their prices too and still be cheaper than the imports. And so everybody's cost was going to go up, and it's happening now. Because money is the overarching issue, not the good of the product. It's one of the things I always liked about Apple, till they've gotten so dependent on their services of late. They provided a good product. Yes, it was very expensive, but it worked for a long time. My laptop that I have, unlike a lot of PC laptops, I can use my Mac laptop for 5-6 years, and it keeps working. Now, your battery products, there's a great conspiracy about Apple degrading batteries. It's not actually true if you know anything about the technology. Is that the new software runs faster and it uses the battery resources more. So every time you upgrade, you're upgrading to a more powerful system on an old battery. It wears itself down. But a lot of people have embraced the conspiracy theory, and I understand why. And that's because with private equity and so many companies now, you look at all these companies and it's about the money. So let's go back to sports and the UFC. They're going to Paramount Plus. How many of you have a Paramount Plus subscription? I bet most of you don't. Even fewer of you have an Apple TV Plus subscription. And Apple TV Plus, if you want to watch soccer games in this country, you got to get Apple TV Plus. We used to have shared community experiences, and that involved sitting around TV and watching sports. And with football, you still can. With baseball, it's even harder. Can't watch Braves games now without getting the FanDuel app, and I don't really like FanDuel, don't want to support a sports betting system, but I have no choice if I want to watch the Braves games. You don't have TBS anymore to be able to watch all the Braves games, and you don't have WGN airing all the Cubs games. Sports fans are getting screwed by this state-sponsored capitalism because now you got to have a million different apps to watch your sporting events plus all the different shows you want to watch. You used to have something called cable, and you complained about it and said, I don't want all these channels, and you didn't understand that it kept your price low to have all the channels you didn't want. And now you get the luxury of not having all those channels, but you got to get the Paramount Plus app, the Peacock app, the Netflix app, the HBO Max app, the Disney Plus app, the Apple TV Plus app, and all the other streaming services. I still keep cable, and I don't actually use my cable system, but I use its login to be able to log into many of these systems to be able to not have to pay a bunch of subscriptions. The businesses of America, when they decided that the money was better and more important than the product and service, they started undermining their own agenda. I go back to the Arizona iced tea company. Now, I abhor the idea of anyone buying iced tea in a can, but a lot of people can't cook, and they do. But it's a company that is privately owned, doesn't have shareholders they're beholden to. It doesn't take on debt. It has kept its price at 99 cents since 1997, and it's about to have to double the price because of tariffs. And not just tariffs, but because companies in America have decided that they too are going to raise the price because the tariff companies' prices have gone up due to tariffs. It's these companies that are putting the dollar ahead of the good and the service that are ruining themselves and allowing the president of the United States, regardless of party, by the way, to invade the free market and make it less free. Because if the companies are going to make it all about the dollar, the government certainly knows how to make it about the dollar, and they make it more inefficient than the private sector. But when the private sector doesn't actually care about consumers now, just the money, well, they cede ground to the government that at least is beholden to the voters, unlike the companies that are beholden to shareholders who half the time don't even care.